Some early birds.
Okay.
It's been recording for 10 minutes already, I think.
No, I stopped it while we were talking.
Oh, okay.
No family secrets out, huh? Okay. Welcome to the April meeting of Yarmouth Energy Committee. We're here with a quorum and we're anticipating some guests as well. We're going to be taking items a little bit out of order because our illustrious secretary, Marilyn Holly, is out this week and can't get her computer to work or get to the meeting. So we're going to take up the March minutes at the May meeting. If any members of the public are here yet, I'll introduce them. Otherwise, I'll introduce, yes, I'll introduce people as they arrive. Well, I see Susan Starkey is here. Welcome, Susan. And Dan Schell, who's the first of our speakers. And Tara Monroe. Tara, hello from the assessor's office. And Camilla Flannery. Camilla is, I hope, a new member of Energy Committee as of the next selectmen's doing appointments. She and I met with Peter Smith on Friday, and she sounds like she would be a perfect addition to the Jolly Band. She's somebody who's an architect and focuses on sustainability. And so she would technically be replacing Steve Gavin, alas, long loved. And so we're still going to be looking for a mechanical engineer, but she was so good, we couldn't demand that she go back to school for engineering just to join Energy Committee. It wouldn't have been reasonable. Let's see who else we've got here.
We've got somebody who's identifying themselves by a telephone number.
Just out
I
of
think we've
curiosity.
introduced everybody who's there. Camilla, Tara, Susan, do you see anybody else, Bob?
Jeremy is coming on.
Joyce, you,
Yep.
you want another mechanical engineer? Is that to validate everything that I've been doing since I'm
Sorry, Mike, you're going to have to speak just a little bit louder, okay?
Oh, okay. In the future.
Okay, and what were you just asking? I sensed a question mark with the inflection.
I wondered if you wanted another mechanical engineer to validate what I was doing, since I am a mechanical engineer.
Well, I think we need two, because if you get run over by an engineering truck, where will we be, Mike? Yeah, we always have to go for redundancy.
So there is an 860-305-9868 phone participant that I don't know.
Oh.
We
Okay.
should probably tell us who you are.
Hello, yes, whoever's on the phone, say hello and we'll introduce you.
They are muted.
They're muted, yeah.
Okay. Well, whoever's on the
Jeremy,
phone.
And
Oh, Jeremy.
is here.
Jeremy, hello, welcome. And he's the one on the
How we
phone?
doing? I'm not on
No.
the phone.
Not on the phone. Okay. Well,
Hi, my
Jeremy,
name-
welcome.
Hi, this
And
is-
then we have somebody else here.
The phone just unmuted himself.
Oh, hello, phone
Hello.
caller. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Hello? Yeah, my
Yep.
name's Jay Frapery. I was interested in the storage part of the conversation, so thank you very much.
Oh, excellent, Jay. Thank you. If you could just spell your last name for the future minutes, that would be great.
It's F as in Frank, R-A, P as in Peter, R-I-E. I'm driving, so I thought I'd go back on mute so I don't bother you.
Yeah,
Is that
okay. Well, you know what?
All
I see your number. I can call you and get any details. Don't do anything dangerous, okay? And we'll try not to have the
Okay.
presentation so exciting that you crash.
All right, thank you.
And I can send you the slides afterwards as well, because you probably shouldn't look at the slides while you're driving. Okay, so we've introduced everybody. The Cape Light Compact update is a pretty quick one. Our next board meeting is April 20th at 2 p.m. at Compact headquarters. And the Compact staff are all currently very busy with compliance matters. Can I just, Dan, run that by you? Is it the 20th or the 13th?
Board meeting?
Yes.
I can tell you in 1 second.
Oh, no, don't bother to look it up. Just
Nope.
I had the 20th, but I thought I recently had a thing from Maggie for the 13th.
Yeah, it's the 13th.
13th. Okay. So if anyone has an afternoon free a week from tomorrow, you know what you could do with it and discover all sorts of things about mass regulation of power supply and even more than that, energy efficiency. There otherwise isn't anything to report on the compact. I might go to the very bottom of our agenda. We promised people that our speakers would be starting at 4:45. So if you look at our 5:35 item, members' comments and future agenda items, we might take that here. If you have suggestions for future agenda items, or if you have any announcements you want to make about events or webinars. Okay, I guess we're good on that. Mike, you're going to need more time later, I realize, but do you want to give us the say the headline for Solarize between now and 4:45?
Sure, I think I can go through everything, probably. Little status report on where we're at. 54 solar PV contracts signed, 6, maybe 7 systems installed. There was one supposed to be installed yesterday. Did anybody hear whether it got in?
Haven't heard.
Haven't heard either.
McFarland went in yesterday.
Oh,
It went-
good.
Good. And there have been 4 heat pump contracts signed and 4 installed. With regard to upcoming events, as all of the Energy Committee people know at least that the signups for this program will be ending the end of April 30th. So anybody that wants to take advantage of the low-cost solar PV panel installation will need to get signed up by the end of April. Same thing with heat pumps through our program. We'll hear more about that a bit later, I guess, with regard to the rebates.
And with batteries as well.
Oh, and with batteries, right. There's a set of newspaper ads which will show up in the Cape Cod Times beginning this Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. The 3 days worth of quarter page ads announcing the end of the sign-up period for the program. And that ad as well has been placed now on Yarmouth Facebook and Nextdoor sites. And Kyle at the town hall office is going to take it and send it out to, I guess, all of the social sites that the town interacts with. Is that right, Sandra?
Yes, and he's already done so.
Oh, okay,
Excellent.
Good. And then I've been working with Solar Wolf on a paid ad, which will be posted on the Yarmouth Facebook pages. And according to Mike Collette from Solar Wolf, that will basically hit 2,900 to 3,400 Facebook people from Yarmouth, age 30 and over. So what we're going to do is run that for 3 days with a maximum charge per day of $25 at the end of 3 days. Then we'll see what kind of interaction we've been getting on that and decide whether to go forth beyond that with even a larger budget assigned to it. April
Mike, have you
12th.
decided which 3 days that will be on Facebook?
It's going to be tomorrow. I believe it's going to end up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, starting
Oh.
tomorrow.
Okay,
Consecutive days. That's what Mike suggested. He'll let me know exactly whether it gets on there, but we're shooting for tomorrow. And
Good.
then April 12th, we have a virtual event for the solar PV folks, especially those potential customers who have already had a site assessment but not yet decided. And they will be invited via email, which I've got the list of 60 people to send those emails to. I'm waiting for feedback from Taylor, which Jeremy, you may remind her, I sent an email that what I need is I need a link for the Zoom meeting that you're going to hold next Tuesday on the 12th, so I can include that link in the email that goes out to these people. Does that
You
sound
need
like
me to, you need me to host the Zoom?
you or somebody at Solar Wolf, right? Yeah.
but Jeremy, you'd be participating. I think it's sometimes easier to have someone else host so that you can be free to talk.
Understand. I just wanted to ask because I have a setup that you can invite multiple users like there is here. I don't know
Oh.
if everybody has it at work.
Excellent.
Okay, and can you see that I can get that link maybe tomorrow, Jeremy, so I can put it in the
I'll get
email?
that confirmed and
Okay.
we'll get that taken care of.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
And- Mike, figure I'll add the 3 people who came in today. Linda McDonald, and then also Sue Wall and Georgia Lair that Barry just mentioned. I'll send them invitations. I'll add them to my list.
Okay. And you'll follow up with phone calls to them then?
Yeah.
In addition to the 12 I'll be sending you. And as a part of that was 60, by the way, there's 5 people who have expressed an interest in batteries, although Sandra, neither you nor Ed were on that. So really, instead of 5, there should be 7, right? Because you'd like to be participating in that and hear what they have to say about batteries, right, Sandra?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
And in fact, one of our people who's on today, Camilla Flannery, is a new battery customer also.
okay. Camilla wasn't the one that got installed yesterday, her.
No, that's Joyce McFarland.
Okay. Okay, that Cape Light Compact, I guess Dan Shell and Jeremy will be presenting those battery details as a part of that April 12th virtual meeting that we will have. And then finally on April 20th, I got 1 more minute. April 20th, we're going to have a heat pump virtual event. So I'll be sending out an email blast to the prospective heat pump customers, those that have already responded to Wayne, our heat pump guy, and not actually got an installation yet. But also Cape Light Compact staff, hopefully Dan again will be there participating to present the new rebate information, which we're very optimistic that when people see all the great rebates that are available now this year from the state, that they're going to sign up in droves for heat pumps.
Mike, I'd just add, just for a minute, so we don't give either Jeremy or Dan a heart attack. I invited them to do storage presentations today, but I haven't invited them for April 12th. So if you're inviting them, you should graciously ask if they're willing to participate and if they have that spot free on their schedules.
Oh, I've had on my list running, Joyce, that you said that Cape Light Compact would be on the April 12th event, they'd be participating with.
The April 20th event. They're co-sponsoring the April 20th heat pump event.
Well, I know that. I've got them down for that as well, but okay. I guess I'll take them off the.
Or you could ask them while they're right here.
Okay, well, when Dan has his presentation, I'll ask him.
That'll be the toughest question he'll get, Mike.
All right. So on the April 20th, Wayne will be participating in that to talk about the technical details. And he's had a lot of experience on getting rebates for his customers in the past. And I'm sure he'll be pretty well up to speed on what needs to be done from the customer standpoint, as well as from his standpoint on making sure rebates get taken care of for new customers in the next couple of months.
And Dan will be able to explain all those new rebates and some of the finer points about what fuel sources you can keep now and that you didn't used to be able to keep and all that. So I think between theory and application, we'll be in good shape for the heat pumps, just like today we're in good shape for the battery discussion. Any questions for Mike?
Let me just add one last thing. After doing an analysis of the Clean Energy Center's database and comparing the price that our program is offering for solar PV panels, namely SunPower, generally considered to be the best available on the market today, our customers can expect anywhere from a 35 to a 40% savings over what other folks, installers, are charging for the same equipment.
Excellent. Well, that should put a happy smile on all our customers' faces. Okay, well, if you're going to get solar, why not go for the SunVault battery as well? Our speakers today are going to be talking about batteries. Dan Schell, who's an energy analyst at the Cape Light Compact, is going to talk sort of a high level about, how batteries are meant to work in a house, where you're thinking of different possibilities for their use, and also give an idea of the new incentives, which were just okayed for the 3-year period that begins in 2022. So the incentives Dan talks about will be good for 2022, 2023, and 2024. Then Jeremy will be giving us some background about how it all actually works on the ground and what kind of tips he might be able to give as somebody who's seen a lot of installations and interacted with a lot of customers who've ordered batteries and used them. So let me first introduce Dan Schell. Dan, we're delighted to have you. We hope the graduate program in the environmental field is going well while you're doing that and being an energy analyst for the Compact. And if you need to share your screen, just let Sandy Cashin know, because she's our host. But we greatly look forward to hearing and seeing what you would like to tell us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joyce. It looks like I might be able to go ahead and share, so I'm going to try and do that.
Okay.
Are folks seeing the full screen image?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So like Joyce said, I'm a senior analyst with Cape Light Compact. I sort of wear I wear a few hats there at the moment. The one is our big focus is on our HVAC programs, in particular heat pumps, and the other being our demand response program, which is what we're going to touch on briefly here today, specifically talking about our residential battery offers. So I think everyone on this call is probably fairly familiar with who the Compact is, but in case you're not, we really serve 3 separate functions, the largest of which is being the energy efficiency provider as one of the sponsors of Mass Save for Cape and Vineyard customers. In addition to that, we offer a municipal aggregator power supply option for customers on the Cape and Vineyard. And then anytime there's anything energy related that is bubbling up at the state level, regulatory wise, we try to sort of keep a pulse on those items and intervene as needed to make sure that Cape and Vineyard ratepayers are represented appropriately. So the whole reason we're here today is really to talk about batteries. You know, through the Solarize program, we hear a lot about solar and obviously with heat pumps, but batteries are another great option to sort of add into the mix with that technology for a bunch of different reasons. The two largest that we have here are really for resiliency, to use it as a backup power system when the power goes out. I think as everyone knows, and we've experienced over the years, the Cape and Yarmouth are no stranger to power outages. So, you know, that's really the number one reason. And then these other reasons are really secondary options to make installing a battery a cost-effective option for you to use it as a backup power source. And so we're going to talk about different revenue ways, different options for how you can tackle getting that battery installed and why it makes sense to do it when you're installing your solar system. So just to sort of frame the discussion, costs, the average that I'm giving here is based on what we've processed over the last 2 years for heat loans, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But on average, we've seen for one battery to be installed, the average has been about $10,500. And that can scale up. There's some, you know, economies of scale. The more batteries you add, you may have some cost savings there. But on average, that's what we've seen. And of course, you know, depending on the installer, the product, there's obviously some wiggle room on both ends of that spectrum. So there's really there's actually 3 ways that you can help finance these systems. The one that I kind of left off of here just by accident that I should probably mention is that if that battery is being installed with your solar system, it's eligible for that income tax credit that you're getting through your solar installation, that 26% income tax credit. So that's sort of the first benefit right there off the top. You can take that 26% off the installed cost. And then the other 2 programs are these regular payments that you can potentially receive by participating in these 2 programs. So the first is what folks are probably familiar with, known as SMART, which stands for the Solar Mass Renewable Target. Traditionally, back in the day, this used to be called the SREC program. But for a lot of folks, they're enrolling and participating in this program when they're doing a solar installation. And there's actually an incentive to add that battery system on when applying to this program and doing a solar installation. And so the reason for that is there's this compensation rate adder line here. So there's this whole complex algorithm for how your SMART incentive is paid and what the rate is that you're going to get. But there's this additional adder for pairing a solar or a battery system with your solar that can increase this number from a 0, the compensation rate adder, to potentially something like adding 0.0607 cents per kilowatt hour to your SMART incentive, which on the whole of things ends up being a pretty significant addition to the SMART payment that you're getting. These are all just kind of sample numbers of averages. So certainly this would vary depending on the size of the solar system, the size of the battery system that you're installing, but this is just kind of to sort of frame what you could potentially be looking at is that increased payment. So that's for the SMART program, which the Department of Energy Resources oversees. Cape Lake Compact does not oversee the SMART program, but one of our employees actually used to administer the SMART program. So we have a few resident experts on staff that can maybe answer a few questions if those come up for customers. But the specific Cape Lake Compact program that we have is called Connected Solutions. So this includes a number of different offerings, but the one obviously folks are probably interested in is this battery offer. So the goal of Connected Solutions, and I'm going to jump ahead a few slides and then come back, but all of our Connected Solutions programs are what we call demand response programs. And the goal of these is to really save, to utilize distributed energy resources to basically do what we call peak shaving, which is getting these really high usage days to be cut back a little. And by cutting that usage, we're able to save ratepayers money And the reason for that is that the top 10% of hours of energy use actually account for about 40% of the annual electricity costs. So by reducing that top 10%, by kind of flattening this curve, we're able to save significant costs to consumers. And there's obviously some other benefits in that we're saving greenhouse gases. People have probably heard of peaker plants that are traditionally fired by things like diesel or natural gas. And so the added benefit of that program, not just that the energy savings or the cost savings to the grid and to consumers, is also the greenhouse gas reductions. So here you can see this is actually an event day that we called an event on. It looks like it was August 26th last year. So you can actually see this blue line here was the forecasted load for New England. And here you can see the orange load actually decreased pretty significantly below what the forecasted load, largely due to not just our demand response programs, but there's a number of demand response programs out there. And you can see that some of this natural gas load actually decreased over that peak period. So what is the actual payment for this program? So we pay based on the average discharge that your battery discharges over the summer. And so what that means is we look at the forecasts on the demand on the electric grid, and we say, tomorrow looks like it's going to be a peak day for electric use, so we're going to call an event. We call an event, your battery gets called through your manufacturer, and it discharges that electricity, either consumed on site to meet your home's load, or it's discharged, whatever's left over is discharged back into the grid to help alleviate some of that stress on the grid. And so we pay the average over all of those events that your battery discharges. And so that incentive is $275 per kilowatt for the summer. So we only run those events from June to September, and we call anywhere from 30 to 60 events per year. We never call events during when we expect a storm or potential power outages, so that folks can keep their batteries in the event the power goes out. So we do try to mitigate any issues there. And then typically those events occur between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. The added benefit of enrolling in this program is that if you're installing a battery and you decide you want to take advantage of this program, you can utilize the Mass Save Heat Loan, which is a zero interest loan with a limit up to $25,000 in a 7-year term with zero interest to utilize for that battery installation. Now, you can't use the loan for any part of the solar install, but you can, as long as that install quote is itemized, we can break out that battery cost so that you can access that heat loan. So between the income tax credit, the Mass Save Cape Light Compact Connected Solutions Program, and the Smart Energy Storage Adder, there's a number of ways that adding a battery on makes sense. There may be a payback period to it, but with the zero interest finance, we think it generally makes sense for a customer to take advantage of that. And I think the resiliency piece, using the battery as a backup as needed in the event of a power outage, I think any incremental cost that you would have to pay outside of these programs, it's probably worth the bang for your buck to have power when the power goes out. So that's pretty much all I had. I do have one here, how to enroll and where to find information on this. For the Connected Solutions program, everything can be found at capelightcompact.org/enroll my battery. That includes, all the program materials as well as the application. And then our eligible models can be found there as well, but I've listed the different manufacturers that we work with here as well.
Okay. Dan, that's very helpful, I think. It certainly would give people an idea how they could better afford a battery than they might originally have thought. Jeremy and Dan, would you prefer that we take the questions at the end or broken up? Your choice.
I can answer questions at any time if you guys are ready. I figured most of my stuff is going to be questions and answers. I kind of figured.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So then let's go by Dan's final slide, questions, and start with questions.
I've actually got a Powerwall that I installed with my solar panels in 2017, which I love. Does the program apply to pre-existing battery systems?
Yeah, so it's what we call a bring your own battery system, or BYOB. So certainly if it's already been installed, you absolutely can enroll it. And all that information can be found on the Enroll My Battery. And it's a great option because you've already paid the upfront cost, so you might as well get paid for it while it's just sitting there on days it's not being utilized.
Great.
Dan, on your very first slide, at the top of it, you said Cape Light Compact was 100% renewable energy. Could you explain how they get to 100% renewable power supply?
Yep. So over top the REC requirements, the class 1 REC state requirements, we purchased RECs over top to meet that 100% requirement. We do also have the 50% and 100% local green offers, which are different power supply options that a customer can opt into. They're slightly more expensive, but those are 100% or 50% mass class 1 RECs. So those are all locally generated within the New England area.
Okay. No, a couple of slides down where you talked about the adders and the value of energy. Okay, the 29.8 cents per kilowatt hour, is that basically what we're paying now?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, if you want to take that.
So those are different areas, things like that. That's not necessarily what you're paying. Those are rates that are being paid to you for what you produce for power. Right now in Eversource East in Yarmouth, it is roughly around that 5 cents. Now, something to take into consideration is you add a battery, it's about a 2 cent adder. So you go from the 5 to 7 cents with a battery. But the reason they give you that adder is because the power you produce that charges the battery does not make it to the production meter. So they're trying to make up for that. I don't necessarily do my estimates saying that you're going to get 7 cents a kilowatt, because you're going to lose the kilowatts that do charge that battery. They do make up for it by giving you the 7 cents across the board. But I don't want to have any misconception that you're all of a sudden getting more just because you have a battery. Now, if your battery stays charged all the time and you only use it in backup scenarios, you would actually get the additional 2 cents. But if you're draining your battery every night in the morning when you charge your battery, you would be losing that part of the production to charge your battery. You run into a couple of things with the SunPower battery. It does charge faster than most other batteries. It's able to take in more power. It does send out more power as well. It charges at 6.4 kilowatts versus some of the leading competitors charge at 3.3. Not here to go through names, but that's kind of an average. So they do charge considerably faster. It also helps when they're in backup mode. That becomes a pass-through for ability to use power in your home. I'm sure the question's going to come up on how much of your home can you power off these things. Are we heading in that direction?
Who are you asking?
Everybody.
Oh,
Because I do believe that they're also with the batteries. Like if you run into a scenario where the power's out, I feel like everybody kind of like ends up in one room. You have the candle. Like some people have a generator. Even if they have a generator, you're running a refrigerator, you're running a TV, a router, some lights. A battery is going to be able to do the same. It does have a set amount of power. It is a battery. It is not flexible with that. It has a certain amount of power for a certain amount of time. Depending on how you use the power, if you have a flashlight and you leave it on for a couple of days, it's going to go out. If you use it for a couple of minutes every day, it's going to last a lot longer. It's going to be the same scenario. Every day the sun comes out, the battery will charge and have power for your home on the selected items that you have. If you have a power outage at night, it may be able to bridge the gap. Power is out for an hour, things like that. Those couple items are going to stay on. Power is out for a week at a time. When the sun comes up and the battery has enough power to pass through to your home, those items that you've selected will have power. Depending on how you use those items throughout the course of the day, at the end of the day when the sun goes down, you could have power after the sun goes down, provided the battery was able to charge. This is going to be different for everybody that uses it, depending on how they use the battery during the day.
You know,
I'm gonna ask about, and perhaps, excuse me, Barry can talk about his experience. If you decide to have an electric vehicle that you expect to charge up overnight, what happens to your battery? Does it ever get to the point where it's full and could be used for other things if you don't use it for your car?
Who's that question for?
Bob Palmieri.
I'm the
Oh,
one
I see.
asking.
It sounds like it's for you, Jeremy.
Okay. So there are different scenarios where you can put a battery charger for a car, right? It's on a 40 amp draw. That's basically the max at where you're at on this. As long as it's not drawing it that specific all the way, it can be in comparison, but it's only going to charge that vehicle. If you're choosing to charge the vehicle over having power at your home, like those are going to be choices you need to make when you're setting this up. Do you want it to charge your car? Do you want it to power your home? Like there are possibilities there, and depending on how you set it up for the amperage going into it is going to be the difference, because you can charge your car at 110. You can charge your car at 240. If you choose to charge it at the 110 rate, you can use it in this scenario, but it's going to take longer to charge.
So this is Barry. I've got both a battery and an EV charger in my garage.
Yep.
I reserve the battery solely for backup for outages, because that's
Yes.
why really we installed it. I don't use it to supply overnight power, because my solar panels provide more than the power I need to run the house over the course of the year. So I never pay Eversource anything. I draw the battery down when there's an outage. And one of the charming things about the system is I've got an app. I can see exactly how many kilowatts the house is drawing in real time. And when there's an outage, I have that. I'm looking at that app and I'm figuring out what can I turn off to make the battery last longer, because it won't last for weeks if the sun isn't shining and it's not recharging. I'm trying to manage my usage so the battery will last through however long the outage lasts. And so far, at least in 4 years, I've never run out of batteries. So the lights have never gone out.
How do you include the charging of your EV in that sort of program? Does it get charged during the day or at night?
It doesn't matter, because with a net metering system, I am producing more kilowatt hours over the sunlight hours when the solar system is supplying power. I draw from the grid overnight when the solar panels turn,
Bob, are you asking in a power outage? Are you asking about in a power outage situation or just normal every day?
No, I'm normal every day. In a power outage situation, you've got
In a normal
time.
in a normal everyday scenario, your battery wouldn't affect the EV.
Yeah, so I charge generally at night because that's just more convenient. But so it's not charging from the panels, but the solar panels are paying for the electricity that I'm charging the car with.
Yeah, but that's because you have a system that produces more electricity than you consume. even with the charging of the EV? What if it's somebody who can't put a large system on their roof and is in some sort of intermediary stage? Does it make any difference?
Well, I mean,
Are we talking about the solar aspect of this, or are we trying to talk about a power outage with a battery? That's where I'm, if this is just talking about someone has solar and an EV, that has nothing to do with a battery.
Okay.
And maybe just to clarify, and Jeremy, certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and Barry as well, with personal firsthand experience, but in generally our recommendation to customers is that battery, it doesn't make sense in Massachusetts to self-consume that battery's energy every day. Because of net metering, it just doesn't make sense. You're getting round trip losses. That process of charging and discharging the battery is not a 100% efficient process. So it makes sense for any extra energy to be discharged to get those net metering credits. So when we're talking about customers installing batteries, we're really recommending that they're only using that battery for like two scenarios. One is it's being discharged and they're being paid for it through one of our programs, through Connected Solutions. And B, if there's a power outage. Other than that, that battery's basically just hanging out with hopefully 100% charge.
Yes, we're not in a time of use state where it would make sense to drain a battery because there's different rates of electricity, things along those lines. So you're 100% correct there.
Yeah, and
when I got the battery, there was an option on my app on the phone to have the battery supply my power overnight until it ran out and then recharge it the next day, and it was described in a way which was supposed to make me feel like, well, that way I'm only using renewable power. But it's kind of just a psychological benefit.
So there is a third
sense.
option. Some people self-consume during the day if they do not meet 100% of their requirements, because you can charge the battery and use your solar at the same time, but you would miss out possibly on some of that solar production for the smart money. But they are case by case scenarios. This is why every home is different. There are no most two homes are not necessarily alike on how they use power and when they use power. The blanket statement in the state of Massachusetts without time of use would be to set your battery up for backup only. Also to get into the connected solutions. Kind of getting into the connected solutions a little bit more, like they say they're up to 3-hour events. From my knowledge, there has not been an event that has been over 2 hours to date. The reason I bring this up is most people buy a single battery. Somewhere around the 12 to 13 kilowatts is going to be your average battery size. Some are 10. When you're talking about the payouts, when you have the 10K battery, you're talking about roughly 6 kilowatts an hour, which that 6 is going to be multiplied by that 275. Now, if you have a 10K battery and you're putting out 5 kilowatts, you're going to make it to 2 hours. If they do have a 3-hour event, it will bring your average down significantly because you're putting out 5 over 2 hours, but your battery will be empty, so you won't be able to make the 3rd hour. Again, to my knowledge, there's been 0 3-hour events. I'm only saying this because they pay you on your average that you contribute. Now we're looking at about a 13 kilowatt battery for the Sunvault. You're going to get somewhere around 6 kilowatts an hour. So your average payout for season will be somewhere in the 1,500. This contributes huge to the cost of your battery. After you're looking at the 26% for the investment tax credit, then you're looking at getting this possible yearly for the 5 years that you can actually contribute into that program and get your payouts. You just have to be mindful of how long the events are for and that you participate in them all. If you do not opt out of an event, you are automatically opt in. So as long as you don't do anything, you should be opt in for all events. You just want to check a history to see how long the events go for. Again, I don't know if they're going to change the time, but I believe 2 hours to date has been the max timeline that they have worked with. And the battery we're looking at, if the events stay within 2 hours, will meet that capacity.
Hmm.
And just to layer onto that, so even beyond that event time factoring into it, depending on the manufacturer of the battery, some of the manufacturers take a cut of your incentive. So Tesla, for example, takes a 20% cut of the incentive. So as you're calculating what your estimated incentive would be, you need to factor that in. And the other piece is some of the manufacturers also require a reserve. They don't allow full discharging of the battery. So again, to use Tesla as an example, just because they're sort of our normal use case that we see, they require, I think, a 20% reserve. So again, you have to take that capacity and multiply it by 80%. So just things to keep in mind, you know, after your first season, so that you don't get your incentive check and you say, whoa, this is less than I was expecting.
The reason I put out the numbers I did is because at the 15, it's a little bit shy of the 6, because you're going to want to keep all your batteries at above 20%. It doesn't matter if it's our battery, someone else's battery, anything along those lines. The batteries themselves, you want to have a little bit of power in there. You don't want to run them to 0. They will say you can run this thing down to 0, unlike a lot of other batteries that claim to be a 13 and then won't run to 13. This is why I give the $1,500 number on the actual incentive instead of doing 6, which I want to say is a little bit over the 15. It'd actually be $1,650. So I do try and go on the lighter side when I'm telling people things, because at the end of the day, you may get a check for a little bit more. Just like when we've done, say, in the smart money, we've been quoting 5 cents right along when it was 7 with a possible adder, because at the end of the day, these things move blocks, and as they move blocks, they pay less. So I'd rather be in a scenario where people are going to get what we're telling them, versus saying, all right, like right now it's at 7 and it moves by the time we get the incentive locked in, and then it's 5.
Okay, thank you. Very helpful.
Welcome.
I have a question for Dan, and that is, are there any caveats about connected solutions or the SMART program? Is there anything that in choosing and trying to figure out what you want in your battery system that would disqualify you for either program?
No, on the residential side, as long as the battery is one of our eligible battery systems, and as long as you have an electric account, you're pretty much eligible to enroll.
Oh, okay, thank you.
In the solar process, that's known pretty early. That's basically like in the interconnection stages and the incentive, which is usually pretty early on in the scope of work when you go solar.
Okay, so people would be able to find that out early and plan. Okay.
Absolutely.
Then
Dan,
I had, oh, go ahead,
put up
Mike.
that slide again that had the, you know, the average kilowatt discharge per season, dollars per kilowatt season.
Hmm.
Okay.
You all see that?
Okay, so when we're talking about a battery, I know you, for instance, Jeremy throws around the number 13 kilowatts, but it's really 13 kilowatt hours, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
That's what the battery holds, is the kilowatt hours.
So kilowatt hours and size are 2 different things. Like, so when you're talking about kilowatt hours coming out, like that's over time, but the actual size of the battery is different. It is a 13 kilowatt as well.
But I mean, kilowatts measure power, don't they?
Capacity is
Kilowatt
what?
hours measure energy, and it's what energy is what's stored in the battery,
Okay.
right?
Yes. What's the question?
So kind of the question is this, what do we have here? This per average kilowatt discharge, dollars per kilowatt season. I mean, Isn't that dollars per kilowatt hour season, or is it the peak kilowatt that you run at any time? What is that?
What happens at a max discharge of our battery is about 6 kilowatts an hour. So it would be 6 times this number would be the average over the time that you're actually able to be in there. That's why I threw out the number of 1,500, just to give a little bit of a buffer, because you're going to average 6 kilowatts an hour discharge with this battery, leaving yourself about the 20%. SunPower does not take a cut. The money goes directly to the customer.
Okay.
Well, that's excellent. I had not realized till today that there were vendors who took a cut.
Everybody wants their money.
Well, Jeremy, I have a sort of practical question for you. If somebody is participating in Solarize Yarmouth and they're getting their solar system and they're getting a battery, would they also be able to purchase through the Solarize Yarmouth program and Solar Wolf the kind of app that that Barry was talking about? And would they also be able to purchase an electric vehicle charger?
So the electric vehicle charger is something they can purchase. Absolutely. That's actually something we could install as well. The app he's talking about is specific for his system. But SunPower actually has the same. It shows you what you're building. It shows you what you're using. And when you have a battery, it'll show you when it's either discharging or charging. So you do have similar. Obviously, it'll be a little bit different because it's SunPower versus, Tesla, but it does have the same capabilities. From what I understand, I believe sometime this quarter, they'll give you actual down to the panel, what each panel is producing.
Wow, by panel, that would be great.
Yes. I'm waiting for them to release that one for us, but that's supposedly supposed to happen this quarter, so we shall see.
Well, and so does the app I'm trying to get this straight in my head. Does the app that's for your brand of equipment come with the equipment then?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, okay, great.
So when we install, you get an app that actually show you what your solar system's producing, what you're using. When you add a battery to it, you'll be able to see what the battery is charged at versus discharge.
Okay, thank you. Some other questions here? I feel like we're getting deep into the subject matter. We're all finding out some new stuff. I have a general question that could be for Dan because it is incentive related, or could be for Jeremy. What's the incentive possibility federally or at the state level for EV chargers? I mean, separate from the purchase of an EV. If either of you know, I know it's not exactly your ballpark, but.
Yes. So Jeremy, feel free to chime in, but I can at least take a shot at it.
Go
So
for it.
yeah, on the residential side, so there's coming down the road, Eversource currently has a docket in front of the DPU for basically a residential make ready program similar to the commercial make ready program that they currently have. So there will be some sort of an incentive program for the installation of residential EV chargers. Last I checked with my counterpart Mariel, who's more clued into that stuff. It looks like she said it potentially as early as September, but the way things go at the state, I wouldn't hold my breath. But yeah, there is something coming on the residential side. In addition to that, Cape Light is looking to add, basically it's either through EV telematics or vehicle chargers, basically an additional demand response program that would incentivize customers to not be charging during those peak periods that we talked about. The incentive, again, we actually just filed this with the DPU on April 1st, so we're waiting for final approval of that plan. But the hope is that the incentive for this summer for customers to enroll would be $100 to enroll up front and then $50 annually to stay enrolled.
Oh,
There's also a federal tax credit, or at least there was in 2020, because I was just checking my returns.
Yep.
I think it was like a 30% credit at the time. I assume it's gone down with the solar credit, but it's the same kind of credit that you get for the solar installation on the EV charger.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like people almost who want to do the best that they can with sustainability and energy independence, it sounds like they almost need a spreadsheet to keep track of all the different incentives. But such a spreadsheet and the kind of lists that you've been giving us should really make all of these items more affordable for individual residential customers. And I think that's a huge break. And I'm hoping that we'll, with sending out links to the video of this program on the town site, I'm hoping that we'll get enough solarized customers or solarized potential customers to kind of take that on board before they make any decision by April 30th, because it seems like there's some really good things that are available to help. Anybody have any other questions?
I have one
Hi, Tara.
question. Hi there.
I have a question for you, Tara. When are you going to convince the hubby he needs solar?
Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could. These conversations kill me because I'm asking this question and it's more of a hypothetical right now. But I'm always thinking of the future, so stay positive. My question is with regard to the solar panels, as far as the energy that is being, for lack of a better word, earned during the day when the sun is out, when that turns into the net metering credits that we would potentially receive, is it the same? Is the time frame set up the same where the usage would be charged at a higher rate during the peak times as current? So in other words, from, let's say 10 at night until 5 a.m., it would be less versus your peak times of like between 6 and 8 in the morning and say, 3 and 10 at night.
So in Massachusetts, you only have one rate for your power. It doesn't change overnight. That would be a time of use. And I understand that there may be a couple places. Yarmouth is not one. So you have one rate, whether it's noon, 5 p.m., midnight, 6 a.m. It is the same rate. And our net metering rate, so when you produce the credits, we are still in a point where they are an even credit.
Okay.
So one kilowatt for 1 kilowatt. So when you make it during the day and you use it that night, it's the same value.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
And
No
then
problem.
at the end of the quarter, if you have a net positive, you get a check from Eversource. Is that?
You do not.
Now, what happens is that you have a meter which rolls either forward or backward. If the sun is shining and your panels are producing, the meter's rolling backward. And when you're drawing from the grid, it's rolling forward. And if at the end of the month, your meter is at a lower level than it was at the beginning of the month, you get a credit on your bill that's applicable to the next time that you have a shortfall. So for me, in November, December, and January, my panels didn't produce all the electricity I was using for obvious reasons. And I was drawing on that credit, but it never went to zero. So I ended the winter with a balance.
Each
And
utility
just
does
carry
it.
that balance as long as you don't need to draw on it.
Yeah, each utility does it a little bit different. There are some utilities that will cut you a check if you move. Outside of that, the net metering credits do stay on your utility.
Okay.
Okay. Well, those were hard questions. Do you have any easy or moderate questions for the end here? Okay, what can I say? Jeremy and Dan, you have educated us to the capacity we can hold. We will have to go out and develop more capacity before we can even think to absorb any more information or ask any more questions. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a huge help. And because it isn't a town committee meeting, this is automatically recorded and it goes into rotation on the town community television. And then it's also available on the Yarmouth Town YouTube. So we should know the address of that by probably midday Thursday. And we'll send it to both of you, but we'll also send it to everybody on this call and maybe some other potential customers out there so that everybody can kind of play this and maybe even play it a second time as they're trying to strategize to see how they can afford solar before the Solarize program ends.
The other side is if you're watching this or even anybody in this, if you come up with any questions at any point in time, you can reach out and I'd be glad to answer any of the questions you may have.
That's great. Do you want to give them an email for that maybe, Jeremy?
Jeremy.e@solarwolfenergy.com would be my email. Or just go to the Solarize page and you can put in an inquiry through there.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And that's a good reminder from Jeremy that there is a page on the town site that is for Solarize Plus Yarmouth.
Hello, this is Jay Fraper. Can I just ask a question?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
But some of it's related. Is it possible if I give you my email that you could send me either a link to that to the spreadsheet, to the presentation, or link to the website that has the presentation?
Sure, Jake. Why don't you figure I'll send you the slides, and then when I can send it by text if you give me your cell. Is that the 805-305-9868?
860-305-9868, yes.
Okay, 860.
And yes. And then I had a 860-305-9868.
9868. Okay, I got it.
And I had a question that was more on solar, if it's all right if I ask.
Oh, of course. Go right ahead. This would probably be for Jeremy.
Okay. Well, I live in Yarmouthport, and one of my challenges is, we're putting a dormer on the house, which is going to face the side yard. One of my challenges is that I've heard that the historic district, even though we're not even on 6A or close to it, we're down close to Bass Hole, that they're not too kind to people that want to put solar on the house. And I just wondered if you've had any of those challenges and how it's gone, if it's worth even pursuing as a result of that.
So as we've kind of rolled with the Old Kings Highway Committee, we've had some successes. We've had some failures. What we can do is present a case, and ultimately each case is specific of its own. One of the things you can't do is go in there and say, all right, I've seen some other people with it, things along those lines. You do have to
set them off.
Yes. We have to go specifically for your case and why yours is least obstructed, where you can't see it as much, things along those lines. When we put these things together, a lot of times I try and put together a couple of options. Some may not be the best for the return on investment, but they are trying to preserve the area. North of 6 is the historic district. I do believe there is another historic district south. I don't know if that's possibly where you're in, but we could take a look at it.
I'm up by Grays Beach. Where's I?
Okay. We could take a look at it. One of the major things is trying to have as little as possible facing the street or any tree cover, stuff like that. They do take into consideration in some cases, like the distance from 6A, but it is a case by case. There is no blanket statement saying it's not worth it. if we took a look at your home, I could give you a better idea. We have presented quite a few cases. And if you wanted to get my opinion on whether or not it was something worth going after, I could try and put together a couple scenarios for you.
Well, I'd love to have some, if somebody's willing to come out and take a look at it, I'd love to have them do that. So.
Well, Jake, why don't I text you and this evening and have you send me all your information, and I'll get it to Solar Wolf tomorrow morning so they can start to take a look. I would just add one more thing, Jake, about the Old Kings Highway Committee, which is it turns out that having neighbors appear at very near neighbors, those they'd consider your abutters, having them appear with you at your hearing and say that they support your application seems to me have been huge in a number of cases.
Okay, I'll definitely keep that in mind. Yeah.
And I'd say
All
it's
right,
also
I'll-
that our experience has been at the very beginning of Solarize, it appeared that the Old Kings Highway Committee was really hostile to solar, broadly speaking. And over the course of the program, that has evolved to a much more rational reception. So there was an assumption in the neighborhood in the past that solar just was a non-starter in Yarmouthport. That I would say that's no longer the case.
Okay.
Is worth pursuing.
Okay. That's
Okay,
fair,
yeah,
I think. Yes.
What I'm looking for would point to the side yard, not the directly front, so I thought that might be a good thing, but anybody that could give me multiple ideas would be very helpful, so I appreciate that. So I'll look forward to your text, and I will send you my information.
Okay, and wolves will come to visit and assess your energy situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I guess that's our last question then. That long distance, possibly while driving or possibly in a daycare center. That sounds like our last one, unless anyone has anything to add.
Just to note that I heard from George while we were meeting that George O'Lear did actually request a quote from Solar Wolf. So
Excellent.
I'm hoping that, I mean, he's a great supporter of all the stuff we do, and hope you get to him.
I will make sure
Okay.
we do, Barry. Thank you.
Okay, well, Jeremy, thank you so much. We're all coveting your outdoor office because we can see it.
Welcome to my screen house.
Yes. And also, Dan, a big thank you to you as well. I think having people understand the kind of practical side of it, and also having the financial side broken down to see how they could make use of that practical side, have been a big help. And we look forward to talking with you in the future, but I'll bet by the time this circulates on YouTube for a week, I'll bet we'll get some more Solarize Plus Yarmouth customers. Then we'll just have to worry about it circulating like in July and having people's hearts broken, but what can you do? So thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for having us.
Okay.
Same, thank you for having us.
Bye.
Okay, good night. Thank you. Okay. Will, Energy Committee members, we have one remaining agenda item since we moved some things out of order, and that's the discussion of the postponed bylaws concerning the town use of renewable technologies. And Barry is going to bring us up to speed.
No, I would say, given the hour, we're supposed to adjourn now, that this is not time sensitive. This is a long-term goal, so why don't we just push it off again to the next meeting and move to adjourn?
Oh, an ever popular, that was an official motion.
Yes.
Before,
Yes.
before we adjourn, I
This one,
Oh, we have a question from Tara before we all run away.
No, I don't even have a question, Barry. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sending that. Oh, what a nice treat. You actually get something in the mail that is nice and friendly and a handwritten note. Really, thank you so much. I really can't even tell you how much I appreciated that. And very well done. Very, very interesting. I don't believe I'm going to be here that weekend. That was Memorial Day weekend, but it was very interesting. And
The show's on for a month, so
yeah,
a couple of other
yeah,
receptions, but I'll be there for, so come see us.
And it's certainly close enough. So thank you again. Very, very much appreciated. It was very thoughtful.
Oh, great. Okay, well, Barry has now done an additional thoughtful thing with making that motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second,
Okay, second from Bob. All those in favor of adjourning and reconvening in May, say aye.
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 It sounds unanimous. Any nays, any abstentions? Nope. I guess we're good. This one heads to the history books. Thank you all very much. Great discussion.
Right.
Sandy, thank you so much for hosting. Much appreciated as always. And see you all in May.